Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is the Channel Zone podcast. I'm Mark Edwards, your host, and I'm joined here today by somebody I've known for many, many years. Indeed, from our early days, I was going to say the UK tech scene, but it was actually the reprographics marketing, or should I say the photocopier industry, back in the
Uh,
1980s. Nick, good morning, how are you?
Good morning, Mark, and it's wonderful to see you.
As always. And Nick is now an independent advisor offering a digital experience advisory services. Now, that barely scratches the surface of what Nick has done and can do. So perhaps like myself, with a career spanning 4 decades, he's worked across a range of industries from legal and healthcare and consulting. But I would say, fair to say, always with a focus on technology's role in delivering real business outcomes. So whether helping law firms to modernize their cloud platforms or guiding organizations through digital transformation, Nick brings a wealth of experience and clarity to complex challenges. He also has a sharp eye for what works and what doesn't, and why so many digital projects go off the rails. So I'm expecting some insights, some healthy cynicism, as was there in spades in the past, and a few stories from the trenches. So for our audience, Nick, whether they're in the channel, leading transformation efforts, or just enjoying a good conversation with somebody who's seen it all and still gets excited about what's coming next, this episode is for you. So Nick, good to see you. Welcome to the podcast.
Lovely to see you, Mark, and it's great to get a chance to catch up and talk about what's going on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I'm going to start, if I may, with a line from Under Milkwood by Dylan Thomas. The opening line, indeed, is "to begin at the beginning." I'm trying to give it there in my best Richard Burton voice. But to begin at the beginning, we met originally, Nick, if we go back to kind of 1986. For me, it was February 86. You might have been a little earlier. Can you just
Yes, yeah,
dig
yeah.
into the
So we
dim,
met.
distant past? What happened?
Yeah, so we met in lovely Farringdon, a place I know which is close to your heart,
It
in the
is.
buzz of the city. You know, really as young salespeople looking to get on and learn from each other and ideally steal business from each other. You know, it was a complex
Are you,
world.
are you going
Complex
to admit
world.
there now? Were you on my
I can admit
territory
it
at
now.
some
I
point?
can admit it now.
Right.
Maybe not to some of the others, but to you definitely. But it was a complex world for us, and I think a really unique team spirit and team environment where it was about really hard work, putting in tremendous effort, and really succeeding. I mean, I think everyone had a strong brand of success there and went on to greater things. So I feel very privileged to have played such a part in it.
Yes, it was a great. I look back, and I'm often given cause to kind of reminisce in front of salespeople where we're training them today, and talk about some of the things that impacted me very early on that I believe stayed with me all of that time. Two things in particular that I think you can refer to as well. I was lucky enough on my first day in the business in February 86. We arrived in the office only to have the previous year's winners of the Honours Club be awarded their tickets. And the other element to it, which again links into it, feeds into it completely, was the points board, which we don't
Yeah.
see as much of
No.
anymore. What are your thoughts of
Well, it's interesting.
points
We seem
boards
to have moved
and
into a world
incentives?
where everyone is a winner. And actually, in those days, that really wasn't the case. It was about
No.
performance all the way through. You had to work hard, you had to achieve, and to be seen to be achieving. And I think that ability to see who was making the running, who was being successful, where the results were coming from was a really key part of it. So it was highly
Yes.
motivational as an environment. And you knew if you were dropping low down the board, you had to get your skates on one way or another and achieve some results. So very visible and very motivational, but visible in a way that doesn't seem to be the case now.
Any guesses as to why that is? Because I've asked even a couple of weeks ago, asked that they know they used to have one, but they don't have one anymore. And again, I think it's because there is a sensitivity towards people's performance being
Yeah,
published.
yes, it could be part of it, and probably HR departments in the background have been warning about damaging people's mental health if they seem to be underperforming. And there's some merit in that.
Yeah.
But also, you don't enter the sales environment unless you've got a degree of thick skin and you want to achieve. and dealing with the ups and downs is a key part of what that role is all about and what we all went through, ups and downs, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. The as I said the points board as it was in Hatton Garden, as I remember back in the day, and at the end of a day, as a young aspiring salesman, I remember standing there looking at that board and seeing who's this guy here, who's done all of those machines, who's Paul Willis, who's this guy who's done all of these
Yeah,
400 Zs in an account, and it was inspiring, even though at that point, I probably had just made my first mark on that points board, but I definitely see it as integral to high performing sales team. I had you worked at SC, you've never worked at Softcat, I don't think.
no, no, but I know Colin and I know what a great job they've done over there. So I have a lot of respect
Right.
for the way they work.
So Softcat, from my recollection in the early 2000s, Martin Hellawell took me around there
Yeah,
on one occasion. They started their day with a tour of the points board. They took them into a room. There was a big points board. People basically shouted out the number that they were going to do or what they were going to achieve, what the kind of measures they were going to deliver that day. And then at the
yeah,
end of the day, they all went back in and they had to account for what they'd achieved or not achieved. Now, I thought
yeah,
that was astounding.
yeah, yeah.
And
I
it's
think
either
that was
going
a
to it's
great
going to
culture.
incentivize, but it's going to drive some sales. Some poor performers, I think, will leave.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a fact of life, though, isn't it? Because if you're performing poorly, whether it's on a board or whether it's in an email, you're going to have to deal with it no matter what. It just becomes, I think the interesting thing is when it's on a board, you can talk to your colleagues, you can be open, you can chat about different things, you can gain different ideas, or maybe ask for a colleague who's doing really well to come out to you on a
Yes,
visit or stuff like that. When it's
yes,
just in your email, you're dealing with it all by yourself with perhaps some manager support. But actually, what we were then was a large team where you could lean upon others and you could talk about some of the challenges and you could make some progress and work as a team, to really make some good decisions.
yes. The points board itself, if you think about it, did provide complete information where everybody was at any period of time.
Yeah,
I think today what they do is they do want to incentivize, and so they do shout outs. But a shout out, I think, it's a moment. It comes and
yeah,
goes. Yes, well done to so and so for this fantastic piece of business they brought in. But actually, back in the day, your super deal was there on the board. You
yeah,
could luxuriate
yeah,
in it for a month at
yeah,
least, maybe.
yeah.
So
And I think the thing we have now, which is interesting, is if you look at LinkedIn, for example, everyone's congratulating everyone else. It's all
yes,
fantastic. They're a great employer. Everything's wonderful. And actually, if LinkedIn could convert into revenue figures, the economy would be going through the roof. You know that half of it is just a load of BS, really, in terms of what people are actually thinking.
well, there's no. I mentioned the word in your introduction. I'm just trying to say that a little bit of. I don't know if I'd call it cynicism. Yes, healthy cynicism. But Nick,
Real
and
world
we've probably
experience.
we've started with some healthy cynicism. But I think the reality is that's the one thing you don't see on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
There is. It's as if there's no space
yeah,
for anything negative or questioning or
yeah.
challenging. I very rarely come across it. What do you think of LinkedIn then?
Well, I think it's obviously changed a great deal, and it has become full of positive information about how well everyone's doing and how well companies are doing, and a lot of advertising, a lot of people looking for business. So it's just one of the many tools that anyone has at their disposal. And actually, like anything, you have to treat it with a degree of cynicism. It's like Twitter or X. You read some interesting stuff on it, but half of it you have to approach with a degree of cynicism. It's like in the old days, you'd ideally read two newspapers to try and get a balanced view of
Yes.
what you thought was going on with the world. Now, with just LinkedIn, you have to have a degree of healthy cynicism and question in your own mind about am I reading something which is truthful, or is it someone's spin on what's happening at a company or what's happening in terms of a technology?
Yeah. What about what posts are you doing? Because there was a period of time. I don't know whether it's just changed in my algorithm. Because I will look at LinkedIn most days. But I think there was a period of time I'd get my daily dose of Nick Martin opinion on tech.
Yeah,
Are you still doing them, or is it
yeah,
kind
not
of
as much as I will start doing that a little bit more. But it really depends on some of the scenarios, some of the client situations I'm working in. Some I can talk about, some I can't talk about.
Right.
But I do think that people offering opinions in a degree unbiased way is really
Yes.
important. I don't want to hear about people who are saying, I've been working for so and so company for 35 years and I'm still as excited as I was the day I walked through the door, because I'll be looking at that and thinking, really? Or rather, we're the best cloud vendor in the world. We're better than these other 1,500 cloud vendors because we understand Microsoft better than anyone else. And you think, really? So, you have to have that degree of cynicism, because I think there's a fine line between cynicism and a desire for knowledge. And
Yes.
actually, I'm not sure that opinion is just the one I want to listen to. I want to listen to some more as well. And so
Yeah.
it's harder to get through some of that on LinkedIn, I think.
I saw even today. I saw a guy I know from the not too distant past, but he was like excited to celebrate in the fact that I'm going to a local government exhibition in the what I
Yeah,
mean, in the coming week.
yeah,
I'm like, really excited
yeah,
about a local government.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
so I
Well,
take that
he might
with a
be,
pinch of
but
salt.
why? What is it about that event that is going to make him excited? Not the bland, I'm going to the event. What are they going to be talking about? Who are some of the people there? What's going on in
Right.
that sector right now, which makes it exciting? People don't seem to want to be upfront about that kind of thing. Where I think it's become a bit negative is where people spend all their time talking about the companies they work for.
Right.
Whether it's in a bid document or when you're meeting a client or anything like that, they want to spend the first 45 minutes talking about their employer because that's what they think their employer wants.
Yes.
And
Yes.
actually, no one wants to hear that stuff. But people are worried about free form conversation. Why is your organization doing this? I noticed you got a picture of this on your wall. How long have you been here? What's it been like? Where were you before? All of those things to get discussions and relationships going. People don't
Yes.
want to do that anymore. They want to spend all their time creating, I've got 35 quick slides here to talk about what we can do for you.
Right.
I don't know what you need just yet, but I'm going to tell you all these things we could do. It's
But you think
dreadful.
about it, Nick, though, there's an amazing amount of companies out there. I mean, it's extraordinary. If you just look at the MSP
Yeah,
marketplace, again, our early introduction into sales, I said we worked for Konica Ubix, a Japanese manufacturer of copiers. There were dealerships in and
yeah,
around London, the ABSs, ADSs, Southern Business Machines, and so on. But there were a number of manufacturers, but we did not have, I don't think, the proliferation
yeah,
of companies. As I said, there must be
yeah,
hundreds of MSPs, possibly thousands in the UK alone. And again, if we look at one segment of the tech industry, just look at security. It's like
yeah,
every week there's another half a dozen companies appearing out of
yeah,
universities or coming out of businesses, being spun off, another angle, another piece of the security vulnerability kind of patchwork
yeah.
quilt that needs to be addressed.
You're going to
So
get me
so
started on
competition.
MSPs, because if you think about the
Please.
MSP market, a lot of those organizations are really investment vehicles for PE backers.
Oh,
All they're there for is, we're going to buy one. 3 months later, let's buy another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. And in 3 to 4 years, they're going to roll them. What part does the customer play in all of that?
yeah, yes,
Very
yes.
low down the order of
Well,
priorities.
the
Maximize revenues, longer term agreements. Let's buy another
correct.
failing MSP over here, bundle them all together, and then flog them again. They've become investment vehicles, as I said, and it's a very dangerous trend in the market, I think.
I'd like to know the numbers on how, but I definitely have seen exactly what you're talking about there. And when you look at other industries where the PE industry has got, so
Yeah,
whether it's, I think, care homes is one, the other one that we're getting a lot of is
absolutely.
the vets. They've gone into veterinary practices,
Yeah,
and once again, you just see the what might have been a local vet all of a sudden turns into a kind of there's an awful
national.
lot of sales
Yeah,
effort trying to push through. You need
yeah,
this, you need that, and my guess is they've got performance criteria that they're trying to measure. So yes, I would agree, and is it not the case? I think there was a lot of movement in MSP boards this year. Part of that would
yeah,
probably be that they weren't delivering, they couldn't deliver on the performance. But the performance that's required by the PE, a lot of the time, in my opinion, bears no resemblance to what the market can bear.
yeah,
It's like we expect you to double the number on this year. This got to go up by 30%. That's got to go by 20%. I'm I freak people out sometimes, I think, by telling them that when we go back late 1980s, maybe beginning into the early 1990s, I'm sure for the time that I was at Connick, for over a 3 year period, the
Yeah,
target didn't increase.
yeah. Well, the problem that people have got now is to win business, regardless of what it is, cloud or security, whatever, they've got to displace someone else
Yes, correct.
because
And
the
that's not
market is so
easy.
swamped.
That's
They've
not
got to take
easy.
business from someone else because
Yes.
it's not massively growing. So how are they going to do that? Are they going to be more aggressive on price? Are they going to do something special in terms of the technology? In the cloud space, what special things are you going to be able to do? I mean, there are some companies reporting very good performances, but they kind of have a secret sauce in terms of how they extend the services of their organization over a period of time. Most of them are just trying to stack them high and sell them cheap.
Yes.
It's a hard market for organizations which are PE backed, I think.
And in the cloud market in particular, so AWS Marketplace, to me, it looks like the marketplace is a way of potentially the customer not having to use the MSP
Yeah,
or the reseller. And I don't even know what distributors can do in that
yeah,
space. They all seem to be, because marketplace is the trajectory is just up, isn't it? It's
yeah.
not a it's rising dramatically. So everyone's just going along with it at the moment. But uh,
So
what
you've got a
will it?
you've got a sliver of market there with more players in it than ever before, with much more control by the vendors.
Right,
So what's the value coming out of there? And that's the difficulty. What can they add from a value point of view? So there's a squeeze going on, as well as all the general economics and other challenges we face. And that squeeze in that marketplace is a really interesting one. So that companies in there will suffer. They'll get bought up by another MSP or another cloud provider and it's kind of disappear into the void. So it's not a very healthy market, I think, from a technology services point of view. There's
yeah,
some nasty aspects to it that I think clients, first off, have to be really aware of. Is this provider in it for the long term? What's their backing look like? What's the board look like? What's the future look like? There's an endless number of questions that organizations don't seem to be able to ask of their potential providers or nervous about asking.
right.
So there's a lot to do.
Yeah, but they say those questions would reveal. I said, not even talking about the long-term outlook, Nick. You're talking about
Yeah,
maybe the next 1 to 3 years,
yeah,
which is still, I would say, relatively short-term
yeah.
for organisations looking at digital transformation. How long does a digital transformation project
Well,
take?
actually, I think it's like one of those terms, digital transformation and target operating model. I think are all wrong because actually, what you're doing is you're moving into a new way of working, which involves being somewhat more agile, which means you rethinking the way you work all the time, adopting new technologies on a regular basis, not being worried about reshaping your organization to do different things. So it's a way of thinking, really. We're moving from a traditional structured way of thinking, which, 4 or 5 years ago, into very much a way of evolution now. So there is no digital transformation project. There isn't, those things just don't really exist. There's a whole series of changes around people and mindset and some technologies and taking processes and chucking them out, coming up with
Right.
new ways of doing things. And so that is the key thing. It's not a start and end date. It's not a target operating model, for example, because are you saying that you get to a particular point and suddenly everything's done? There's a big tick in the box. I've
That's
reached the
right.
target. It's now my CV. Because in 3 months' time, things will have changed again. Something will have happened in the stock market, or there'll be another terrible bombing somewhere, or there'll be another U-turn by government. So you're going to have to keep on responding
Yes.
all the time to
Yes.
these things. It's a way of working. It's not
That's
a
right.
project or a program.
Yeah. So digital transformation, I think, as I said, I'm sure the phrase is still out there, and is
Oh
organisations
yes,
that are still pursuing it. AI wouldn't have been part of that mix, I think, 3 years ago, although it was probably definitely front and center to some people. But it's come, it's in general use now, is it not? I
yeah,
mean, so even the general
yeah,
public, you can
yeah,
now ask. Many of them will have used many. It seems to be ChatGPT seem to be leading the pack here. But what's AI going to do in terms of? And you've done a lot. You've done a lot in the legal profession
mm,
in terms of the. I think it was a kind of technology there. how is AI going to transform that industry? Will the legal profession allow AI to transform it? Because is it not the case now that you can get ChatGPT to create you a full contract? You can provide
Yeah,
the criteria of what you wanted to do, and it's done in 30 seconds, not 30
yeah.
days. A team of six people.
Wow. I think if we step back slightly, I think AI is another wave of technologies that can do some real good if we think long and hard about what we need and where we need to get to.
Right.
Obviously, it is quite transformational in terms of the way that individuals can work. And there are aspects of the way people work where it can bring real results quite quickly. But it's still quite vulnerable to hallucinations and some of the other challenges that goes on. So, like any technology, it needs to be thought about and bedded in. And there have been numerous issues where AI has got it quite badly wrong in terms of particular cases. There are a few prominent ones in the US where judges really took lawyers to task over the fact that they'd written stuff using AI and it was blatantly wrong. Um, the interesting trick is where AI can completely invent something based on information from two or three different sources.
Right.
And
Is that
we've
what they call
put
a
individuals like
hallucination?
that
I think. Is
before.
that I've heard the
Yeah,
term
hallucination. Yeah.
hallucination.
So I think that organizations need to think long and hard about where they bed it in. And it is still the combination of right-minded individuals and technologies and lean processes that make the big difference. So it's just another tool set with working with people with the right skills and thinking about how your processes work. So it will make a great deal of difference, but it's a gradual thing.
Yeah. Let's
And just
Sorry, Nick. Sorry. As you can hear, definitely it's hay fever season. I've
yeah.
got little tickles in my throat here. Let's. I just wonder if you can delve into the past and kind of merge it with the future as a kind of hypothetical question here. If you were a young Nick Martin arriving in the UK instead of what I'm assuming was 90, when did you come? 1986,
Something like that.
1985?
Yeah, yeah,
If it was now 2025 and you're a 21, 22, 23-year-old sales guy, whereas in the past, he said we would have gone out canvassing. The office environment stunk of cigarette smoke and coffee, you may remember.
yeah,
You weren't a smoker. I think you probably were a coffee drinker. We had Bisley coffee and cream filing cabinets dotted
yeah,
around. There was a typist, a receptionist. Our desk, we had a box of cards with customer details on with
yeah,
compliment slips stapled to it and a
yeah,
desk phone and a Kelly's directory. I don't know where,
yeah,
if you remember,
yeah,
and a map of your territory. Those were the basic tools that we had to learn to apply and use in terms of delivering on our sales target. You know the tools that are available to a salesperson today. How would you advise a 25-year-old Nick Martin in 2025 to what tools would you
Well, I
say
think the key
that
thing
is?
is think about what you're wanting to get together to start off with. And I know you do a lot of work on this. What's your strategy with the particular client? Who are the people you need to influence? Who's
Yes.
influencing them? Who are the other people working with them? What's going on in their market? How's their sector being influenced now and in the future? There's a lot of stuff there.
Right.
Only some of that can you get through one tool set. So LinkedIn is part of the tool set that you would use, but actually there's a lot more you need to be able to do in terms of using, say, ChatGPT. What's the healthcare sector going to look like in the next 3 to 5 years, for example? Or who are the main competitors going to be in sector XYZ? Or what do you think the trends with technology is going to be over that period of time? What are some of the government agencies which might influence that? So a lot of those questions I've just asked there, you're not going to get the answer out of LinkedIn. You're going to get
No.
some names. You can look at your client and you can think, who are they connected to? Who are they working with? Who do they comment on? What do they do with that information? So you can get some information, but actually the rest of it, you have to be creative and think outside the box and think, what I want to know, where could I go? What articles could I read? What reporting does that company need to do? Most companies have to do mandatory reports of some sort or are responsible to bodies, government bodies that might assess what they're doing. So there's a ton of information. The challenge is getting that together in the right order and then using that to think clearly about how you can best help your client. And that actually, we talk about it as selling, but it's proper consulting as well.
I would say it's more consulting. I'd say
Yeah,
just as you were reeling off those things that you might want to know, those are pretty strategic consulting type questions. I'm not sure that many salespeople think along those lines. Again, they like our initial query many years ago was, what's the name of the lady or gentleman in charge of buying your photocopier? That was the
Yeah,
basic amount of
yeah,
information and a
yeah.
telephone number. But as I said, now you have this. It's not even as a smorgasbord. As I said, it's an
Infinite. Yeah, absolutely.
infinite
But
amount
how
of
do you get your
information.
hands
Yeah.
around that and use it?
Yes.
And actually, I would disagree with someone who says that the salesperson's tool is just LinkedIn. I think you've got to think broadly. You've got to have creative thought. You've got to think. And one of the things which I think is really important is a degree of bimodal thinking about your particular customer as well. Who are the other people who deal with that client? Who are the other people who are helping them on that journey? How can I work with those other people to do a better job from my point of view? Because I think one thing which is just dreadful is the way that organizations don't collaborate for the benefit of their client. You know, a few times I've been in client side situations where we've been trying to negotiate or get different companies to work together. I say, stop. Because what you want to do is, if you're paying these people money, get your supplier A and your supplier B and your supplier C to work together and come up with ideas as to how they can help you through this. You don't have to put it all together. Get them to go away because you're paying them money and get them to present a solution back. But that's a different kind of engagement that not enough people are doing.
Yeah, but
We, we've been there.
I would have thought quite difficult as well, though, Nick. I mean, even to get people to work within an organization, working for the same company to get everybody
Yeah,
pointing in the same direction, I would have said is a challenge. To try and get two
absolutely.
or three, and again, in the tech area, so many of them probably now look at any other company there, and they can all see that they've all got bits of business they want to take off one another.
Yeah.
So I don't know what kind of impact that
I,
has.
I
Can you
still think I know it's possible because I have done it for people, but I know it's
right?
possible to force that issue. Because if you've got four different suppliers
Yeah,
and there are some areas of overlap but some gaps, you want to sort those out. And
right.
so actually, step one has got to be go away and try and sort this out. Think about it and come up with some
Yeah,
ideas.
yeah.
I don't mind paying for some of that time, but think about some ways to get the
Yes.
service the shape I
Yeah.
wanted in. If they can't do that, if they're not willing to do it, if they don't want to do it, then it's a black mark against them.
It
And
is. It
actually,
is.
they drop down the tier of potential providers for this. If one provider is thinking, actually, we could change some of what we do here, take on that, and work more closely with this organization, that's what you want to hear from potential providers, not, oh, we don't talk to them. My boss has said we can't talk to so and so down the road. We'll talk to
Yeah.
you as the client. We don't want to talk to them. Is
Yeah.
that the right message you want to give to your clients?
It's certainly not, and I'm sure you have got experience of being able to organise it. But notice, as I said,
Hard.
the determination and the force that you would sometimes perhaps need to bring.
Yeah.
I mean, let's call it as leadership at the end of the day, Nick. All right, and
Yeah.
I think you would be able to do that. But I'm not sure as to whether that leadership capability is as prevalent as we might want it to be. One last thing, I'm going to. We mentioned tools. I have talked about said LinkedIn. I'm also intrigued again as to as how much your network I would regard, because when I started, my guess is it would have been the same when we started in sales. We had no network. We knew
Yeah.
nobody. You might have been landing. You were in a foreign country. Even I, as a Welshman, could say that I was the
You were
same.
in a foreign country as
I
well.
was only 230 miles from home, but still, I knew nobody.
Yeah.
I knew nobody. I had no network connections. I had at all. And you would have started the same way. But would you also agree then that the ability to leverage your network, your personal and your professional network, is a key element of your ability to succeed?
I think it's really important. I think you have to start off with by thinking, what can you do to help your network? And so I'd like to think on many occasions I have tried to help my network. There have been times when I've helped a bit, but maybe it's not as much as I could have done. But I think in life, if you put more in, you'll get more back.
Yes.
So I think trying to help people in your network where you can leads to a healthier kind of
Healthy
environment.
network. It basically cultivates the network, and I would have said
Yeah,
also opens the network up for reciprocal
Yes. Yeah.
assistance and support, which
Yeah.
I say the older I get, it's wonderful. I had a situation even last week when my daughter is kind of said, looking in terms of work, where to go and whatever, and she can mention a company and I can say, oh, I
Yeah.
know somebody there.
Yes.
Whereas I did not have that ability
Yeah.
in the not too distant past. So the network, as again, and LinkedIn, if you think about it, it
Yeah.
leverages the network,
Yeah.
but it doesn't necessarily leverage it in the way that I would want it. You know what I mean? It could do an awful lot more for the network, but I suppose LinkedIn have
Yeah.
got their recruitment
Yeah.
offering that they want to sell and
Yeah.
their
Recruitment offering is
subscription
key.
services.
Yeah, as I said, I don't think I've always done as good a job of helping the network as I could have done, but I do my best on it. And I think you've got to have all these other tool sets at your disposal outside of LinkedIn as well.
Yeah,
This company that so and so is thinking about joining, everyone loves them on LinkedIn. You go and look at their board reports, and their share prices like going through the floor like that, and you
right.
think, actually, do I want to recommend someone going to work there? So
Yes.
you've got everything's rosy on LinkedIn. Everyone's amazing. I love working for them. They're the best employer ever since the last
Yes.
one I left 6 months ago. But actually,
Yeah.
reality could be very different.
Yeah, but again, if we look far, we had a great time. I know you also look back with rose-tinted spectacles. I think back to, but it has to be said, Nick, it's not as if it was all perfect back then. There
Well,
were issues, there
yeah,
were challenges, there was office politics. But as I said, whether it's just as I said that period of time, and it was a foundation to my career, as it was a foundation for
yeah,
yours. But you moved from sales, I would say, into consulting relatively
yeah,
quickly.
yeah.
But as a
I did get
consultant,
lucky with that.
it would strike me that you are a very you're as a consultant, you're able to sell. So you must have been
Yeah.
a tremendous rainmaker over the years for consulting services. But it wasn't so much blue suit, white shirt, red tie, BMW driving salesperson. It was that with a consultant
Yeah. So
sheen.
what was weird for me is I went from that photocopier space into IBM mainframe migrations. So I still look back and don't quite understand how I managed to make that shift. It did
Yes.
work really well, and I learned a lot, and it was a wonderful platform. The most important thing about those experiences, not the companies I've worked for at all. The people are the key thing. The individuals that I've worked with over a period of time, particularly the Welshmen, but lots of other people as well.
Absolutely, and as I said,
Uh,
as you will have seen on LinkedIn, as you've referred to here as well, I have a fondness about Farringdon Station that just
yeah.
doesn't really make a lot of sense. I love the fact that I can still refer to people to my original territory: EC1R, EC1M, EC2R, and EC2Y, and
Weren't
keep that
they
on my
mine?
pad.
Wasn't that my territory?
But I said I've got very fond memories of it. Wouldn't want to change it. Wouldn't want to change it at all. And do feel, in some respects, as I do with many other things. Actually, I think it was a golden period, a golden era.
Yeah, it was a golden
There
period.
was pressure at work. We did have pressure. I
Oh,
mentioned
yes.
the league table and the kind of the leaderboard. But I think the other phrase, work hard and play hard, there was an
Yeah,
awful lot of that back
yeah,
then. And I suppose, think about it this way. When you finish at 5:30, 6 o'clock, our day had ended, we
yeah,
might actually, go from there over to a local
yeah.
bar and have a beer before heading off home. We would talk work there,
Oh,
but we
yes.
didn't have the phone
Yeah.
beeping at us from 6 o'clock in the morning till 12 o'clock at night.
We worked harder, but our working days were shorter, which is interesting, isn't
Yes.
it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
you're right.
these days to finish at 6 or 6:30, you seem like you're a slacker.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting and rhythm. But it's the people that always made it. The companies are forgettable in some ways, but it's the people that made the difference, really. And that goes back to the network comment we make and what we learned from all of those we've worked with that we've been able to reuse and take into our own way of working.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm sure after this, as I said, talking to what would have been sales legend Nick Martin from back in the Comic Ubix days, I have a feeling I might have to reach out to some of our other colleagues and
You
get them to
definitely
appear
should.
in the future. But Nick,
Submarket can
listen,
be.
our time here is coming to an end. Did you have something to say there?
No, no, it's good. I've really enjoyed it, Mark.
Brilliant. Okay, well, look, I'm gonna let you go. Thanks ever so much. I hope our audience, whether they're watching or listening, have enjoyed it as well. Nick, thanks ever so much for being here with us on the Channel's Own podcast. I'll see you again in the not too distant future.
Stay safe.